oh, maybe I should visit this place and see what's happening there. So I went into meditation and I went to go visit the halfway dimension. Remember, it's a cliff with a river, there's a waterfall to my left with the hidden cave, there's this big beautiful rainforest with all this life happening there. And as I arrived there in meditation in my spiritual eye, remember, as I open my eyes, I always see the cliff first, the dirt, and it was in so much more detail for me now, just because of developing my ability to see. And I open my eyes, my spiritual eyes, and there is Saphira. I had forgotten about her. And it makes me really sad and emotional because she was really lonely and I'd left her there for like 3 years. And she looked at me with her big, like, how could you eyes? And I was just gasping for ear. I was like, oh, I forgot about you. I am so sorry. Because I took a lot of my other animals with me, my other spirit guides, but I forgot to bring her with me. Yeah, and instantly she forgave me. She forgave me so quickly. So I grabbed her, I brought it onto my body, and then I literally watched this whole dimension, this halfway dimension, the cliff, the rainforest start to disintegrate, and it just disappeared. Kia ora whānau, bienvenidos, familia. Welcome no mai. Here we are again for another video on this beautiful day of the full blue moon in Pisces, whatever that means to you if you follow astrology or not. The last full moon the last full blue moon until like 2037 or something. Anyway, welcome back. Today I want to share a story I love to share, a story I've shared a few times, and it's about my relationship with dragons. Obviously, dragons don't exist in this physical world, so they exist within my internal world, within the world of the unseen. And I have a very special relationship with dragons, at least my experience with dragons, specifically with 2 dragons that have walked with me up until this current moment. So, we're gonna go into the world of the magical kingdom and share my story of dragons. So enjoy, whānau. No mai. Welcome. So before we start, I'll share Karakia. And this time I'm going to read off my flashcards of Karakia, and I'll also share the translation. So once again, I'll invite you, if you're wearing a hat, take your hat off. Allow your eyes to come to a close, or bow your head. Tūtawa mai runga, tūtawa mai raro, tūtawa mai roto, tūtawa mai waho, kia tau ai te mauri tū, te mauri ora ki te katoa, humye, huye, then everybody will say, taikie. I summon from above, below, within, and the surrounding environment, the universal vitality and the energy to infuse and enrich us all, present, unified, connected, and blessed. Kia ora. So the mythical, magical kingdom, dragons. Dragons that no longer exist in this physical world, at least we cannot see with our physical eyes. We can only see with our spiritual eye. So, dragons. So I first met my first dragon guide when I was at the age of around 23. And I've shared this in my previous videos about this dimension, this realm called the halfway house. And then in the last video, I'll link it here or somewhere at the end. In the last video, I did a guided meditation on how to access that place, the halfway house, the halfway dimension. So like I said in the last video, I did a lot of work in this space and I connected with a lot of my guides in that space. And so I remember would have been like a couple months in of I visited the halfway dimension every day. It was part of my daily practice of meditation. And I remember dropping into meditation there, and when I opened my eyes, my spiritual eye, in that space, I'm still trying to figure out where to look. In that space, I always see myself first standing on the cliff, and it's about like a 6-story high cliff, and then it goes down to the river, and then there's a waterfall to my left, which is where is my place where I do my work, and then there's a big rainforest, and it's really sunny. And so I always, when I open my spiritual eye within my mind's eye, I always see my feet, then I see the dirt, then I see the rocks, then I start to see out. And this one particular meditation, this journey to that space was, I open my eyes and I see this dragon. I see this dragon just flying around. And this was quite a common experience, as I'll open my eyes and there's something new that has developed within this space. Either a new tree, more detail on what I can see, new animals, guides that are in that place. And so I open my spiritual eye in this space and I see this beautiful blue dragon. It would have been how it presented itself to me, younger, as reflecting the same age as me. And I see this beautiful blue dragon flying around. And we greeted each other and we said hello, and we became friends. And we started to work together. In my journey of energy healing, when I would work with treatments, when I'd do treatments, sometimes I'd feel the intuition or the guide to invite this dragon, this beautiful dragon, who was at that time presented herself as a female. And from what I understand and what I've learned about dragons is dragons can change their sexes from male to female, and they can also become both to mate with themselves to produce offspring. That's what I know about dragons. And many different cultures have many different representations of dragons. This is once again a reflection of what this dragon is for me. And so, I digressed. And so when I would work with people, as I started to develop my practice of energy healing, I started to feel this nudge from her where she would come in and she would help me. She would either protect and guard the energetic field just outside of mine and my client's field, and she would just sit on the edge in the perimeter. And then there were some times where I'd also invite her to do a flamethrower, either from the crown down or from the root up, from the feet up. And I would invite her and ask her, well, can you help just to cleanse and clear this person? And so that's how we would work together. Here, I'm just having a remembrance of her. Anyway, yeah, and so at some point she was able to also walk, journey from that halfway dimension and to sit with me on my shoulder. In this world, obviously you can't see her because this is in the spiritual eye, in the unseen. And eventually I learnt of her name. Why I say learnt is because I didn't have the capability to understand the language that she spoke and or the frequency and the vibration in which it was shared in. So it took me a while to be able to translate the vibrations. And her name is Saphira. And as I grew, she grew. She was reflecting my energy, my modi. And she became bigger and bigger. And so we worked together. We did a lot of work together. Wow. Did a lot of work with clients, either directly cleansing and clearing their energy field, protecting the energetic perimeter. Anyway, fast forward to about 3 years ago, and this was I'm gonna go on a little side tangent, then we're gonna come back. And this would have been my third ceremony sitting with Mother Ayahuasca. And that journey, I had an ego death, and I'll share another video explaining more and sharing more about that experience, but for now I'm just gonna keep it pretty short, that story. And I had an ego death, like the full works, a 6-hour, 7-hour journey of crying, screaming. Wow, it was amazing. Such a challenge, but amazing. And after that ceremony, as I checked in with my energy body, everything was like disconnected. The chakras, the meridians, the nadis, like when there's a visual of the chakras, usually there's like a highway, but there's a link. All of those were disconnected, and the color of all my energy points and centers were in like this bluish silver hue, and it was just radiating. And I was like, oh my God, my whole system has just come back into a stasis, like the journey of the caterpillar into the cocoon, into the moth. I felt like my energy field just went into this cocoon, and it was just vibrating. Anyway, I'll share more about that story. Basically, as I was going about the next day and kind of feeling for the first time lost about who I was and this groundedness that I usually always had with my energy field, and I felt really disconnected from who I am, and I was like, man, this could take for ages to integrate. And I tried many different things that day, grounding with the ocean, with the moana, grounding with the tree, trying to draw it out, like what would be the step to help reintegrate everything. And then it took my partner at the time for us to come together, and because she also sat ceremony, and for her to support me. And what happened is we ended up coming together, and then our roots activated, and we made love. And it was amazing because at that time I was very quite practiced in the practice of sex magic and tantric flow, and that's another story for another time. But basically what had happened was, when we both came to climax and we both channeled our energy and circulated our energy up into our third eye, to our spiritual eye, and then to our crown, as we reached that climax and that explosion, boom, I shot up and I just like explode. And what I visualized, what I was seeing was like a dwarf star imploding before it explodes, and then a universe was created, a whole cluster of stars. And that's what happened within my spiritual eye, within my internal space. I was like, boom, I'm in a new place. Wow, it was so surreal. I'm in this new place, and there's nothing but the sun and then all these stars, and it was just me. And instantly I knew intuitively this was my new space to work in. This was my new dimension to work from. And from my perspective and what I understood, was in a higher vibration than a halfway house. And so here's this new space, right? And this is another conversation for another time, another story for another time. So I started operating from that space. And I had new guides that were in that space, guides I didn't mention in my last one. This space also, one of the guides there, like I was like this little speckle, and then there was this big giant man, and we're just floating in the nothingness of this galaxy that now I can work from. And he identified himself as the librarian of the Akashic records, and so I could work through him to go there and have seek wisdom from the Akashic records. Anyway, that's a whole different story. But I started working with him closely for the next 3 years. I'm working with him, and there was also this Cyclops there, this big Cyclops guy, but mainly him. And then there was also this woman, this deity being named Sophia. So I started working with them and seeking guidance from them. And working with them for 3 years, right? And fast forward, I was teaching this technique, the halfway house, to a client, to a friend, and kind of I led them through the meditation and through the guidance. And then it occurred to me, I was like, oh, maybe I should visit this place and see what's happening there. So I went into meditation and I went to go visit the halfway dimension. Remember, it's a cliff with a river, there's a waterfall to my left with the hidden cave, there's this big beautiful rainforest with all this life happening there. And as I arrived there in meditation in my spiritual eye, remember, as I open my eyes, I always see the cliff first, the dirt, and it was in so much more detail for me now, just because of developing my ability to see. And I open my eyes, my spiritual eyes, and there is Saphira. I had forgotten about her. And it makes me really sad and emotional because she was really lonely and I'd left her there for like 3 years. And she looked at me with her big, like, how could you eyes? And I was just gasped for air, and I was like, oh, I forgot about you. I am so sorry. Because I took a lot of my other animals with me, my other spirit guides, but I forgot to bring her with me. Yeah, and instantly she forgave me. She forgave me so quickly. So I grabbed her, I brought it onto my body, and then I literally watched this whole dimension, this halfway dimension, the cliff, the rainforest start to disintegrate, and it just disappeared. And then I took her to my galaxy, this galaxy now that I can work in this dimension, and I just watched her fly freely. This was during my time in Nicaragua. I was living in Nicaragua at the time. And why I say that is because it's important for the next part of my share. And so upon arriving back to New Zealand, I came back to New Zealand and I met my niece to my brother for the first time. My niece, I haven't met her because I've been away for a while. And I met my niece and she was laying down on her back and I was just like interacting with her. And then I heard this voice from Saphira and she says, I am leaving you and I am going to go be with her. And I was like, huh? Oh. And that was it. She left. And then I just watched her and my eyes and the unseen just start flying around her head. And she left me. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Non-attachment. But also during that day I was in meditation and I was guided to tune into my root, to the fire in my belly. And I saw this vision, I had this visual of the fire in my belly, and then there was a giant egg. A giant dragon egg. And it hatched. And it was a red dragon. A red dragon. He was male though this time. There's a bit more ferocity and it was just a bit more stern and stoic. And yeah, a new dragon was born. For me, with me, to work with me. During my time here as I integrate back into New Zealand, because I've only been back here now for 8 months. And so, he sits with me now. He's got this beautiful long tail. It's got like an arrow type of, like a point. And kind of the same experience as I grow in my awareness, he also reflects that and grows as well. To add context, as I've also kind of understood, kind of reflected as to why it's a male and why before it was a female, is because a lot of my teachers during my spiritual and energetic healing journey have mostly been females. And in my journey of life, the wisdom that I've received has been mostly from females. So it makes sense now that I'm coming into the space of connecting with the masculine, with the male. And I learned his name pretty quickly, actually. I think I'm going to pronounce it right, but it's Taniwha Manawa, Taniwha Maha Manawa Maha, Taniwha Maha Manawa Maha, the dragon of many breaths. And I was like, that's a cool name. Cool. And I'm grateful that I got to learn that name very quickly. And so now he works with me in the same role of guarding the perimeter, especially when I'm working with clients, especially when I'm working in plant medicine ceremony and I'm facilitating plant medicine ceremony. And same thing was helping to support clearing and cleansing energy. Yeah. And so that's my stories of the dragons, my relationship with the dragons, and my connection to the magical kingdom. So, thank you for listening. I'd love to hear your stories of dragons. Yeah, I'd love to hear your stories of dragons. But actually, one more story is when I arrived back to New Zealand, I got invited to a healer's ceremony, a healer's circle, and there was a couple of indigenous First Nations to Hawaii, and there was an elder that came. And because in the Māori culture we do karanga, we do welcoming on, and we have a lot of protocol with working with guests, and quite often it's also a sharing of songs as well. And this Koauau, this elder, shared a Lemurian dragon song, and I was like, wait, what? And he said he's never ever shared that song in public. A Lemurian dragon song, dragon call. Wow, I felt the vibrations of that. Anyway, whānau, that's my kōrero about dragons. Thank you for listening. And as always, I will close with a song. And the song that wanted to be heard by the dragons is by my Koauau. Thank you for listening, for hearing this story about the mythical, magical kingdom, about a world that doesn't exist, that we cannot see with the physical eyes, the world that exists within the magic in our heart, the unseen world. And so I share this story of a normality to normalize conversations such as this, to speak of the magical kingdom, the unseen worlds. And so, if you have any stories about your experiences with the magical kingdom, the fae, the fairy folk, the dragons, the mythical creatures, and how they've supported you, I'd love to hear. Anyway, kia ora whānau. Tihei, mauriora.